Here we go. We are in a new era of real estate. As of August 17th, all MLSs nationwide have removed any offers of compensation from the seller to the buyer's agent's brokerage, which leaves buyers in the dark as to if their agent is going to get paid by the seller or not, and opens up another aspect of negotiation for buyers and sellers in this chessboard operating on multiple planes that we like to call real estate. Hi, Emily Farber here, your favorite Iowa YouTubing realtor. I sell a lot of real estate and I create content all about the state of Iowa, the Iowa City Metro specifically, and real estate. So give me a thumbs up to let me know if you appreciate this kind of content, and think about subscribing to make sure you don't miss out on my newest videos. Why does a buyer care? Because another requirement in our new era is that buyers must sign a buyer representation agreement with an agent prior to that agent being able to even show any houses to that buyer. The buyer representation agreement, which is a binding contract, is full of all the stuff spelled out, including what that agent's compensation will be for their services. The amount, it's negotiable, and something that the agent and the buyer need to come to an agreement about. Because if the seller doesn't agree to pay it upon closing, guess who's responsible? The buyer. I have a video all about it and things that buyers need to be aware of, so be sure to take a look at it when you're done with this video, of course. So, obviously, most buyers are going to be pretty interested in the prerogative of a seller to offer compensation or not. Yet, that information is no longer available to see on the MLS. Sellers can certainly still offer compensation to the buyer's agent. In fact, in many cases, it might be in their best interest to do so. But the government says it cannot be publicly advertised. Are any of you people out there an attorney? Would you please pop into the comments and offer your opinion on how this is not a violation of sellers' right to free speech? If you're interested in a deeper dive into why I think it's a good idea for most sellers to offer compensation to a buyer's agent, check out this video up here. Anyway, back on topic. In order to find out what, if anything, is being offered, a buyer's agent is going to have to call, text, or email listing agents and inquire. There'll probably be other ways. Brokerages are likely going to list this information on their company websites. There will be sign writers. Look at this beautiful one here. There may be information left inside of properties. I am seeing lots of very creative ideas from agents in order to find ways to communicate outside of the MLS what a seller is willing to offer. However, a big philosophical internal debate for me right now hinges on if I, when working as a listing agent, should disclose to the general world how much a seller is willing to offer to a buyer's agent. Let me explain. Previously, the amount offered to a buyer's agent was disclosed on the MLS. Essentially, it was a pre-negotiated amount by the listing agent when they took the listing, and the buyer didn't have any say in it. One of the key components to commission in real estate that it is not set. It is a negotiable amount, right? So while it may have been negotiated between the seller and the listing agent, the buyer over here didn't have a say in that negotiation. Well, now that has all changed because the buyer has the opportunity to negotiate the compensation rate they agree to with their buyer's agent when they sign that buyer's rep agreement. In fact, the buyer's agent cannot collect more than what is the agreed upon amount in the document. So if a seller is offering 3% and the buyer's agreement says that the buyer's agent's rate is 2.5%, well, then that agent gets 2.5%, which circles me back to my philosophical question. When I am representing a seller as a fiduciary, it is my job to get them as much money as possible for their property. One point of view might say that publicly stating what the full amount is that the seller is willing to offer will bring the greatest number of buyers to the yard. And that should help net the seller the greatest amount of money. Okay, that makes some sense. Another point of view is that simply stating that the seller is willing to contribute something towards a buyer's agent without disclosing what the full amount is then encourages buyers to write an offer, but it doesn't give buyers agents time to amend their buyer rep agreements up to that full amount, and it doesn't let the buyer know that an easy ask would be, for instance, let's say the seller's told me that they're willing to offer 3% towards the buyer's cost. If the buyer knows that and has a buyer rep agreement signed with their agent for 2.5, they may then structure their offer and say, okay, Mr. Seller, I want you to pay my buyer's agent 2.5%, and I want you to contribute that leftover half point towards my lender's closing costs. A half point on a fairly average single family home price of $450,000 is $2,250. So even though we're talking about just fractions of a percentage, it's still not pocket change. If the buyer is not privy to the top amount of what the seller is willing to offer, the buyer may be more conservative in their overall ask in the effort to get the offer accepted. It needs to be the seller's decision to disclose the total amount that they're willing to contribute or not. And this is not something that I am seeing very many agents talking about at this point, because honestly, most agents are still reeling over this massive industry change. So this is something that I totally think we all need to start talking about. At the end of the day, what is agreed to in the purchase agreement trumps everything else. There may be a seller that is steadfast that he is not going to pay a buyer's agent, but then his mind might change when the right offer comes along. Conversely, there might be a seller who out of the gate says that she would offer 3%, but she receives a really lackluster offer and the buyer's agent compensation becomes a point of negotiation and then gets reduced, like let's say down to 1%. From the seller, forcing the buyer to bring the difference to pay their agent. Do you see where I'm at here? I guess where I'm currently at with all of it is if it's just another chess piece on this multi-dimensional board that we're playing on, it doesn't really matter to me what the seller says they are or are not willing to do, because it all gets negotiated in the purchase agreement. And if the terms are ultimately not acceptable to both the buyer and the seller, well, there's no deal. If you're an agent watching this, I would love to hear your thoughts, so hop on down into the comments. Ultimately, we just don't know what we don't know until we know it. And none of us know it because this is a brand new era. We are going to figure it out as we go. Some people faster than others. So, giddy up, my friends, and welcome to the new era of real estate. Hey, it's been fun, and I'll catch you later.